Today's culture normalizes and even glorifies lust. Viewing pornography, to many, isn't a big deal. In fact, some couples actually watch it together. Many reports say pornographic sites receive more traffic than Netflix, Amazon, and Twitter combined. But what's really sad is that Christian men are watching just as much porn as non-Christians. It's really important that you understand pornography is not just about sex. Plenty of women make themselves sexually available, and their husbands still watch porn. So your counselor or your pastor who prescribes sex to keep your husband away from the internet are completely missing the point. Pornography is about laziness, greed, selfishness, boredom, feelings of inadequacy, and fear of intimacy. By watching pornography, a man can feel wanted, admired, pursued, important, powerful, and virile without having to give anything back, without having to do any work to build, maintain, or repair a real relationship. Pornography is living in a fantasy. That's always easier than living in reality. Men will often minimize the ramifications of porn in their life and in their relationships. They convince themselves that since they aren't physically having sex with another woman, they aren't committing any adultery. There's no real harm. But that's a lie. Studies show that regular use of pornography impacts a man's brain and his capacity to have a normal sexual relationship. It also harms marriages. It harms and insults you as his wife. And once marital trust has been broken, it's impossible to have true intimacy if that's not repaired. You can have sex with someone you don't trust, but you can't have intimacy. That's because intimacy requires feeling safe and secure. Intimacy is the ability to be vulnerable and unafraid. So what can you do if your husband is addicted to porn? First, here's what you can't do. You cannot fix his addiction or even force him to see that he has a problem. It's really important for your own well-being that you accept this. Your husband himself has to want to change. Boundaries and consequences can be a wake-up call for him, but ultimately he has to make the choice to change. But what you can do is work on the only person you can control, which is you. So consider attending a support group for women dealing with similar issues. A friend and colleague of mine, Sherry Keffer, wrote an excellent book called Intimate Deception. She's a psychologist and a woman who's lived through it. When it comes to dealing with your husband, you can say something like this: I'm willing to see if our marriage can be restored, but I am not willing to be disrespected any longer. I am not willing to live with a man who connects sexually with other women online, even in fantasy. It would help me if I saw you taking steps to set personal boundaries on your own internet use and figuring out why you're unable to be emotionally intimate with me. That tells him what you will and what you won't live with anymore and puts the ball in his court. You don't need to find him a counselor. You don't need to give him a deadline, nor do you need to remind him about this conversation. You simply state what you need to feel safer and then watch and wait and see what he does. See if he produces fruit in keeping with repentance, like it says in Matthew 3. It's his actions that will rebuild or not rebuild your broken trust.